Vilhauer was a 58-year-old man who went fishing by himself in the Sierra Nevadas. After an unsuccessful day of fishing, Mike decided to go hunt for grasshopper leaf in the forest. When Mike started to head back to camp, he found himself lost. He made a shelter and even made some attempts to climb ridges to figure out where he was, but he just became more and more exhausted. At one point, he lay down to give up and die, but later he realized that he must keep trying. Finally, he decided to make a giant help signal made out of pine needles. On his 5th day of being lost in the wilderness, a helicopter spotted his signal and rescued him. This is just one story that happened to just one man, but that doesn't mean it can't happen to you. My topic today is on survival. My goal in this speech is to not discourage you from ever wanting to go on another hiking or camping trip in the wilderness again, but to give you a few of the many available ideas on how to survive if you do become lost. In today's presentation, I'll be covering 3 main points. First, I'm going to tell you how to prevent getting lost from happening. Secondly, I'll tell you how to survive if you do become lost. And thirdly, I'll tell you how willpower plays an important role in everyday survival. The best time to prepare for safety is before you even take that first step into the wilderness. First of all, tell someone where you're going before you leave. On April 26, 2003, Aaron Ralston was hiking by himself in eastern Utah. While Aaron was descending down a slot canyon, he slipped, and a dislodged boulder smashed his hand against the rock wall. Aaron tried to free himself, but when he realized he couldn't get himself free, and no one knew where he was to rescue him, he decided to do something that would be very painful, but it would save his life in the end. He decided to amputate his arm off with a dual pocket knife. He was trapped in the cavern for 127 hours, but finally was successful in the amputation and was free. Later, when Aaron Ralston was interviewed, he acknowledged that he should have told a family member or a friend where he was going and when he planned to get back. In addition to establishing an itinerary, pack ample supplies, more than what you think you need. Essentially, plan as if you may get lost. The outdoor adventure store REI posts on the website the top 10 things to take on a day hike. Number 1, navigation. 100% of people without visual cues to aid them, such as the sun, will walk in circles. Take a compass and a map. 2, sun protection. Pack sunscreen and sunglasses. 3, insulation will protect you in cold climates. Think about bringing these 6 main articles of clothing: a jacket, vest, pants, long underwear, gloves, and a hat. 4, illumination can benefit you if you are in the dark, such as a flashlight. Always remember to bring extra batteries. 5, a standard first aid kit. 6, equipment to start a fire such as waterproof matches. 7, a repair kit and tools such as a knife and a small fold-up saw. 8, nutrition, extra granola bars to keep your energy up. 9, hydration, bring water. Lots of water. I mean lots of water. Or a small water filter to save room in your bag. And last of all, 10, emergency shelter. A small fold-up blanket to keep you warm or sheltered on a cold or rainy night. So you're out on a hike and for some reason you find yourself lost. Stop. This is a great acronym on how to survive if you become lost. S stands for stop. Take a deep breath. Sit down if possible. Recognize that whatever has happened to get you here is past and cannot be undone. You are now in a survival situation, which means T. Think. Your most important asset is your brain. Use it. Do not panic. Move with deliberate care. Think first so you'll have no regrets later. Take no actions until you have thought it through. Unrecoverable mistakes and injuries are potentially serious in a survival situation. They occur when we act before we engage our brain. Then O. Observe. Take a look around you. Assess your situation and options. Consider the terrain, weather, and resources. Take stock of your supplies, surroundings, your personal capabilities, and if there are any, the abilities of your fellow survivors. Then last of all, follow the letter P for plan. Prioritize your immediate needs and develop a plan to systematically deal with the emergencies and contingencies while conserving your energy. Then follow your plan. Adjust your plan only as necessary to deal with changing circumstances. Once you have followed this acronym and figured out that you may be lost in the wilderness for more than 24 hours, think about building a shelter. The website WikiHow describes a great way on how to build a basic shelter. First, find a suitable place to set up. Generally, the best place to build a shelter is in a fringe, an area between an open field and dense underbrush. Being fairly close to water is ideal. Find an unmovable object such as a big rock or fallen tree. Then brace big branches and smaller branches over the top to make the frame. Lastly, pile small debris such as leaves, grass, and moss over the frame to provide further insulation from the cold climates. Once you have built your shelter, next try to make a fire. There are several methods of fire building. The first is called the bow drill method. This process took my dad and me about 3 hours to assemble and apply. The best we got was one with a smoke and slightly blackened wood with no flames. The second method is to use waterproof matches and fire starter paste with collected dry wood. Total time about 30 minutes and successful. The final method is to use the flamethrower, taking about 3 seconds. Since a flamethrower is bulky to carry on a day hike, I recommend taking waterproof matches and fire starter paste. If you accomplish these tasks while lost in the wilderness, although you won't be as comfortable as you would be in a 5-star hotel, you will extend your survival time and greatly increase your chance for rescue. I thought it would be a good idea to see what it would be like to survive in the wilderness. So, on March 19, 2016, my dad, one of my friends, and I set out on an expedition at my grandmother's 480-acre farm. When we decided we were lost, we got right to work on building our lean-to shelter. We learned that having a good quality fold-up handsaw was very useful for cutting down bigger material. Then we started to build our fire. We used fire paste and dry dead wood to make our fire. It was successful. At 10 o'clock p.m. we lay down in our shelter. We learned that having a small fold-up nylon ground cover blanket was more comfortable than sleeping directly on the ground. Plus, it kept us safe from unwelcome bed critters such as these. At 1 o'clock a.m. it was too cold to sleep, so we stoked up our fire and slept around it, taking turns to keep watch over it. To put a damper on it, it started to rain at about 3 o'clock a.m. That's a real damper. So we moved back into our shelter. We were surprised at how well the shelter kept out the rain, but we still spent the night shivering and sleepless. At 6 o'clock a.m. we hiked back to my grandma's house, and later that morning we celebrated by going to a very hearty breakfast. Willpower is one of the main key points for survival. You'll need a fire and shelter, of course, but to really stay alive, you'll need willpower. If you tell yourself you're not worth it or you can't survive, then you're not going to build a shelter or a fire. But if you tell yourself I am worth living and I can survive, then you can do it. Willpower helps us to forget about past mistakes and helps us focus on the situation at hand. Also, willpower helps us to rise above physical discomforts. Do you remember Aaron Ralston? He had this type of willpower. I mean, imagine cutting off your own arm, but he was driven by the will to live. Willpower is a God-given power that helps you to endure in things you think you can't do. By learning a mindset in one area, such as surviving in the wilderness, helps us to transfer that same mindset into other areas where might be facing hardships, such as financial hardships, difficult relationships, health problems, religious persecution, and also it helps us from eating the entire box of cookies in one sitting. Lastly, willpower is always good to keep a mindset that God is always with us. Joshua 1:9 states, "Be strong and have good courage. Do not be afraid or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you." The best way to go through a survival situation is with willpower, and willpower comes through God. I hope you will not be discouraged by all the traumatizing stories that you hear on the news and online. And I hope you are not thinking that you don't ever want to go on another hiking or camping trip in the wilderness again. But the best thing I want you to remember on how to survive in any scenario is by having willpower. Yes, you'll need skills on how to survive, but if you don't have God on your side, then believe me, everything will be a lot more difficult. Thank you.